uppercut, uppercut, sonic boom!
Hello there, humans. Today we're going to be talking about the UZI, and it's a video that I've been trying to make for a long time. You might recognize a lot of the footage from events that are quite old. There's like an ice castle bit of footage in here and all kind of stuff. And that's because it's been sitting here on the project timeline forever. I'm not sure how to approach it. The UZI is a weapon that is loved by a lot of people. And a lot of people, I'm going to also reference these stats here that you can see on screen. They're from my spreadsheet. There is a link to my spreadsheet in my Discord server called Bushka Sheets. You just join the Discord server and there's a channel there. Go and check that out. The link to the Discord server is in the description below. And there's like 10,500 people on that server. So don't be shy. There's plenty of action for everyone to go around. The UZI itself, and also why not like and subscribe to the channel, like while you're here, and you can find all this stuff out every day. The UZI itself is an excellent gun. The problem with the UZI is that people don't seem to ever pay attention to changes in the game and upgrades to other weapons. And it has been a little bit power creeped across a couple of sections of the game, most notably by guns like the Vector and the MP5K, which have both picked up big buffs in recent patches, and also just by other ARs and things starting to work a lot better and approach it in terms of time to kill and ease of use. So let's talk a little bit more about this. What the UZI has going for it is stupidly good recoil. It's not the time to kill that makes it stand out, in my opinion. It's got good recoil, and that means that when you point the gun at something, it doesn't really spray everywhere. Like if you're using an AKM, you know what I'm talking about. You use an AKM and look at this FPP footage. This is from a while ago, man. You don't get FPP games anymore. The AKM, for instance, you press the button and it's going everywhere, right? And you can't really be sure where that is. If you press the button with the UZI, it doesn't really move. It is very, very, very stable as a platform. One of the things against it is that there's less people that run 9mm weapons late game. So this is something a lot of people don't talk about. When you're running around with an UZI, if you're using it, it goes through ammunition very, very fast. Same with the Vector, same with the MP5K. Very fast firing 9mm weapons. They struggle to maintain ammo levels because no one else is running that stuff. So less so on certain maps, but if you're on Miramar, for instance, there's not nearly a lot of people running around running an UZI. There's a lot of people running around with 5.56 ARs and long-barreled weapons that shoot a long way away. Or if you're on, Erangel, you'll quite often run into people running M416s and AKs or barrel M762s. They don't always have 9mm, which can be very, very annoying when you get late game trying to find it. It's the same problem you have when you're trying to run a VSS, for instance. What the UZI does have going for it is that the ammo, and these are very different things that people never really talk about, is that the ammo is very lightweight. So you can carry a lot of it, and it doesn't take up the same kind of space that 7.62 takes up, which is wonderful in and of itself. Now let's get down to the brass tacks. The time to kill on the UZI is very important, and it fluctuates. It's as more and more people run devices that are capable of running 90 frames per second, and they are coming to market, like the Red Magic 6 is going out now, and all these phones and iPads. People are being able to utilize these faster firing frames per second more often. And they are purported to be making a fix for this, so we will eventually get a uniform rate of fire. But at the moment, the UZI, when you're running it at 90 frames per second, has a time to kill of 0.256. When you're running it at smooth/extreme, has a time to kill of 0.312. When you're running it at smooth extreme, it's 0.283. So it loses a lot of power when 0.3 of a second when you're running it at 90 frames per second, and it's one of the only weapons I could find that does this. It actually gets worse at higher frames per second, which is crackers. Another gun that does this is the Graza, and also I think the UMP is ever so slightly better at 60 than 90. But this is one of the most notable. Even if you're running it at 60 frames per second, 0.283, you're looking at the kind of time to kill that you get on a Beryl M762, which is good, but if you're doing a Beryl, you get much longer range because the Uzi's shell velocity is abysmal. You're talking about a gun that's in the high 300s at best. And that means that you're not able to lead targets at range. It has a very quick, effective range drop-off, whereas guns like even the Beryl has 700 meters a second as a shell velocity, which means it's effective at a much larger range, and it hits with a much heavier round. It does 47.9 base damage to the Uzi's 25.9, and its time to kill is considerably lower. 0.288, which is basically the same as the Uzi's at 60 frames per second, but 0.255 seconds time to kill at 90 frames per second. So it actually gets the buff from 90 frames per second. And it's one of the guns that has really started hustling into the Uzi's marketplace. And as we learn more and more about bullet speed coupling with time to kill, guns like the M416 and the M762 and such become more and more valuable because they are better and better at than the Uzi as the meters get further and further. And you don't have to go a long way. Like, I've done videos on this, not that anyone watches them, but after about 30 meters, you're better off running an M416 than an Uzi. Like, I can't be clearer than that. It's about the same between 30 and 40. You're kind of even, but after 35 to 40, you're really starting to trend towards an M4, and there's just no comparison. Your shell velocity when you're running a 5.56 AR or a 7.62 AR is such that you've got to be in very, very close quarters with an Uzi to make it work. Now, that's obviously something that people don't mind because oh my God, look at this. We're just going to walk around each other. That was pretty funny. I remember that fight. The Uzi is renowned as a perfect complement to an M416. And I need to preface this whole passage of play again, because I am not saying the Uzi is a bad weapon. It's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is that this gun, there are so many other alternatives to it on the marketplace now. And with what we understand about the mechanics of the game, the Uzi's getting marginalized. Now, SMGs were buffed a few patches back, well, quite a few patches back. I think it was like 4 or 5 patches now. Is it? Yeah, anyway, and they buffed their explosive damage, which is the damage they do to legs and arms. And this helps negate these kind of things so that the Uzi does actually do very well against level 3 gear when you're just hitting limb shots or you're just spamming and hip firing. And that's why it still manages to go okay in these, CQC engagements. But the problem you come up against is it limits your loadout. You can run an M416 and it is fine versus just about anything. But you can also run a bolt action sniper rifle with it, or you can run an M416 and a Groza or an M416. And I mean, the Vector has become a better gun than the Uzi for my money. Like the Vectors at 90 frames per second got a huge buff when 90 frames per second came in. And no one talked about it. I did. Its rate of fire at Smooth Extreme is around every 0.062 seconds. And it does a higher base damage round of 32 than the Uzi. At Smooth 90 frames per second, it goes up to a rate of fire of 0.051. So its time to kill drops from 0.31, which is the Uzi's time to kill at 90 frames per second, to 0.255, which is Groza and M762 levels. And it's capable of doing that with a higher damage round, which in my opinion is more valuable. So is the Uzi going to be any good for you to run? Well, the greatest joy of all of this is that for a new player, the Uzi, it's very hard to miss with. Look at the hip-fire stability of this weapon. Look at the complete lack of recoil. It just goes at exactly what you pointed at. So it's always going to have a place in the game. And a lot of players are just used to it and wouldn't run anything else, and that's fine. But for me, I just think there's too many other options out there to ignore. And it just doesn't quite get the job done to the degree that I'd expect and that I'd be willing to sacrifice a bolt-action sniper rifle, because it can't do anything else apart from CQC, or even, you know, running an AR that gives you a little more range. Because of those things, I mean, you could run a Tommy gun and get the same kind of results and have a lot more in the rounds department, so that you can handle more targets and pump out more damage and still have the same kind of time to kills. I think it just marginalizes the value of the weapon. So it's a good gun, but it's no longer for me the CQC Bandit that it was once upon a time. Anyway, I'm Bushka. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I don't know if that's a hot take or not for you. It doesn't seem very hot to me. If you want to check those numbers out again, go and check out my Discord server. Link is in the description below. Join there and check out Bushka's spreadsheets. There's heaps of stuff in there that no one else really does. Or if they do, they don't seem to be doing it as often. I don't know. There's other people out there who are cool. Go and check them all out. Until next time, look after yourselves and stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now.